Now, with Putin's threats to target the US and the UK, does the use of Storm Shadow missiles signal a broader escalation of the Russia-Ukraine conflict?
Between Kiev and Washington, with the authorization of or the, let me say, kind of authorization to use the Shadow missiles, the long range, and the authorization to use it in the territory, within the territory of Russian Federation. So I think that the escalation began, in September, October, and early November with this tension, and I think that a few days ago the response of Russia was quite clear. But clear was also the message to the nation, but also referred to the West of President Putin. I think that that would be a point of stopping the escalation and playing on around the table for negotiation between the big powers.
Well, how do you assess the possibility of this conflict realistically spilling over into Eastern Europe or even involving the West nations directly?
Well, if you remember, prior to 22nd of February 2022, Putin launched a similar message to what we had few days ago. And this message was, let me say, discarded by the West. So if the latest message would be discarded by the West, this would lead to escalation. In more than 15 years analyzing Russia, I always have seen chess player rather than poker player. This means that Russians never bluff. So this is not a bluff from Russia, from Kremlin, from Putin himself.
Mm-hmm. Then can we expect in turn further NATO involvement in the war, especially given France's commitment to no red lines in Ukraine support?
Well, this is also a political message by, for example, France and other powers. They, if you refer to the message, latest message of Macron, is having internal political trouble, and of course using foreign policy, the support for Ukraine as, let me say, a tool to, not to use, let me say, the political message, to his people, is one thing. Of course, this will depend from, let me say, 2-3 countries: US, UK, because we know that the UK is not following the European pathway, and a clear political and defense mission as other European countries, as Italy, France, and Germany themselves, and of course Washington. I see that this increase of escalation and potential involvement by Washington is a mean of the Biden administration to put, let me say, in rather difficulties the Trump administration in the first weeks of after the inauguration. But again, if someone will use these to increase the, let me say, the tension, and will misuse this to increase the tension, we will have a risk of NATO involvement, because we know that the Article 5 and the Article 4 are quite clear of the NATO card.
Mr. Vincent Ligorio, researcher at Analytica Intelligence Center from Moscow, thank you very much for joining us, sir.